Hello, welcome to Verbling. Hi there, I'm teacher Oakley, and for the next hour here on Verbling, we're going to practice our English by describing movies. We're going to practice our description skills. I'm going to share with you some ideas about describing things like activities and events. Like a movie is a little story, so how to describe a story, which also, if you're describing an activity that you did or you're describing an event that you saw or you participated in, I'm going to give you some clues about how to go about describing those things, and then we'll get to it. You, the students, will describe some of your favorite movies, and hopefully, I'm hoping, maybe recommend some particularly good movies. I enjoy movies a lot. Most people do. Many people do. And I would love to hear your recommendations. Okay. Some basic things. When you're describing something, all right, let me do a little screen share here while I'm waiting for participants. I'm going to share with you some things that you can talk about when you're doing your description. But in reality, when you're describing anything, you're describing perhaps a carnival you went to, or your trip to the aquarium, or your vacation. You're basically going to do the same thing. You're going to use the same sort of, I don't know, outline or format to talk about any kind of action story, something that happened. So the same thing in the movies. First of all, you can talk about, when you're talking about movies, you can talk about the actors or the stars, who's in it. If you're talking about your vacation to the beach, you can talk about, first of all, who you went with. Your cousins, your girlfriend, your grandmother. Took your grandmother to the beach. I don't know, whatever. All right, who's in the movie? Simply, you can say Bruce Willis is in it, or it's starring Bruce Willis, or it stars, the movie stars Bruce Willis. All right, so it's important when you tell a story, you're describing some kind of story, and a movie is a story. Talking about your trip is a story. Talking about, I don't know, something that happened at work today, it's a story. So who is involved? Definitely you're going to talk about the setting, where it happened. All right, we were at work at 9 o'clock this morning when suddenly, dun, 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 okay, if you're talking about your trip to the beach, of course you're going to talk a little bit about the setting. A beautiful beach with nearby volcanic mountains, white sandy beach, stretches for miles and miles, with no buildings anywhere near it. Okay, it takes place where and when? You do the same thing for a movie. And we often say it takes place in the city, in the country, on a ship, in an airplane. Remember all those airplane movies? Oh my God. On Mars, wherever. We often, when we're describing movies in particular, but other events and stories, we often combine the where and the when. Both of these things together are, again, the setting. So it would be common to say it happens in the Italian countryside in the 1800s. For example, we can combine prepositional phrases to show place and time. This is very normal when we're describing things. So you're describing a movie. It's a good idea to get the kind of background information. So the listener gets a picture of what's going on. Okay, the where and the when. In the past, in the winter, in the future. Oh, it's a science fiction movie. Then you get to your actual story. Now, if you're talking about your trip to the beach with your grandmother, then you're gonna talk about the story. If you're talking about a huge argument that two people had at work, this is the plot. Okay, this is the meat of the story, the important part. And in a movie or a book or a play, the storyline, another word for plot, would be storyline. Okay, of course, this is the most important part of your description. What's it about? Okay, what's it about? The what part. Notice description. Good descriptions include who, where, when, what. All right, you're basically asking yourself all the W questions in order to give detail to your description. If you're doing any of English speaking tests, the standardized tests like TOEFL or IELTS or any other test like that, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to have to describe something as part of the test. This is really the key to success, giving detail. And to give detail, it's fairly simple. Talk about the who, the where, the when, and most especially the important part of your description about activities or actions, or in this case movies, is the what. It's about two people who fall in love. It's about a meteor that crashes into the earth. Okay, the what. What is the plot line? And then, of course, every good story should have a climax. The dun 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 part of the story. Every good story will have a surprising or interesting or funny kind of ending. A movie without a climax is, well, basically a really boring time you spend eating popcorn. Okay, we might introduce the climax by saying, in the end, what happened? Okay, they get married, they save the earth, and Bruce Willis gets killed again. Okay. Other things, when you're talking about movies specifically, of course, you might want to mention what kind of movie it is, a category, or when you're talking about movies, when you're describing things like movies or books, or music, we talk about the genre. All right, in music, there's blues and reggae and classical music, salsa music. In movies, of course, we might want to mention, maybe more near the beginning of the description, we might want to mention perhaps it's a comedy, romance, sci-fi. Sci-fi, of course, science fiction. It's a documentary. It's a horror movie. It's animation. That's cartoons. Walt Disney. It's a thriller. It's an action movie. All right. Sometimes movies or books can be a combination. It's a romantic comedy, we might say. It's a science fiction thriller. The movie Alien. The movie Alien has a horrible alien that jumps out of people's stomach and eats people and does all kinds of horrible things. So it's in the future. It's a science fiction horror thriller. It's a thriller because you're don't know what's going to happen, and there's very exciting parts. So we can combine genres, and we often do in when we're describing movies. Okay, so you might want to actually mention this part near the beginning of your description. Okay, it's a romantic comedy starring Bruce Willis, whoever, and then talk about again the setting, where and when it happens, and then you get to the fun part, the plot, and ultimately, of course, the climax. What happens in the end? Okay, who's brave enough? What brave souls are gonna join me in the class and actually practice your English so I can give you some feedback and help you improve your English skills? Come on in and recommend a movie to me, and I would really, really appreciate it. Okay, I guess in the meantime, while I'm waiting, I guess I can try to give you an example of a movie. Okay, fine. I have 2 daughters. They are very young. One's a little over 3, and one's 1.5 years old. I want to describe their favorite movie, which I get to watch at least 2 or 3 times every day. So I know the storyline very well. This movie is called Frozen. All right, well, you can start with the name of the movie. The movie's called Frozen. It's a Walt Disney animated movie. Okay. To tell you the truth, I can't remember the voiceover stars, people who do voices in an animated movie. That's called a voiceover. I really can't remember. I actually don't remember who does the voiceovers in this movie. Sorry. Okay, the movie takes place. Actually, you don't really know where the movie takes place, but vaguely, it seems, since they mentioned fjords, it would seem to be in some Norwegian, Sweden, in one of the Scandinavian countries. Apparently, Finland. I'm not even sure. It happens in a small city-state somewhere in a fjord in some Scandinavian country. Clearly a place where they have seasons, since that's central to the plot. The time period seems to be maybe in the 17 or 1800s, as people, you just have to guess this, but since people have like crossbows and swords and such, I would be guessing that it would be sometime in the 200 or 300 years ago. Okay. The movie is about 2 princesses, one of whom is to become queen one day, and the older princess has magical powers. She can turn anything frozen. She can freeze anything, or she can wave her hand and make a giant frozen fountain, or a snowman, or a sliding hill, or she can make it snow, or she can build beautiful ice sculptures with a wave of her hand. The problem is she can't really control this power, and she accidentally injures her younger sister. Now, the parents don't know how to handle this problem, so they basically kind of lock away the older princess and hide her from the public so that she doesn't hurt anyone, and they want to keep her magical powers a secret. But unfortunately, they go on a trip on the ocean, and they die in a storm. The ship sinks, so the parents die. The idea of the story, the main focus is on the two princesses and their relationship. Now, unfortunately, the younger princess feels very abandoned, very blocked off from the older sister, who is trying to protect her from her own magic powers. This continues for a while. Eventually, the older princess comes of age, and she's to be coronated, made the queen. Okay. During the course of the coronation festivities, in which various foreign dignitaries are invited to witness the coronation, the younger princess meets a handsome young prince, of course, and instantly falls in love, of course. They want to get married. Of course, the older princess, now the queen, Elsa, Queen Elsa disapproves, and there's a bit of a spat. There's a little bit of a fight. In the course of this little altercation, Queen Elsa's gloves, which protect her hands from making magic spells, her glove gets ripped off, and she accidentally makes big ice barriers, and she shows her magical powers. And she gets so distressed that she runs away, runs out of the city. But she's so freaked out that her magic powers to freeze things run wild. And lo and behold, she basically freezes the whole city and the countryside and the harbor, well, everything. And she runs away into the mountains. The younger princess then feels that this is her responsibility and her fault, that she argued with her sister and upset her, and she wants to go fetch her sister and convince her sister to make this sudden winter go away and make summer come back, because it actually takes place in the summer, the coronation, and she turns the entire area into the winter. So the princess sets off to go get her older sister at the top of the North Mountain. Of course, it's always the North Mountain. Anyway, along the way, she loses her horse, falls in a river, nearly freezes to death, and inevitably she meets a character, a young man who actually harvests ice for a living. That's his job. And he's very down on his luck, and the princess hires him and his best friend, who happens to be a reindeer, and he has a sled. She hires him to take her up the mountain to get her older sister and retrieve her and set things right again. Various things happen. They're chased by wolves, and they struggle a little bit to get up the mountain, but eventually they get to the Crystal Ice Palace, which Queen Elsa has built for herself on the top of the mountain. I forgot to mention that this is a musical romantic drama animated film. So there's lots of lovely songs, really good singers actually. I wish I could tell you who they were, but anyway, there's lots of lovely music, and it's all said and done. Queen Elsa and the younger princess Anna, by the way, is her name. They have another little bit of a fight. Elsa resists going back to the city, and again, during the course of this disagreement, Elsa again zaps her sister with her magic powers and freezes her heart. So Anna starts slowly dying. All right, it's not instantaneous or anything, but her hair starts to slowly turn white. Queen Elsa also, with her magic powers, creates a giant snow monster, which then chases them down the mountain. The young man, whose name is Kristoff, the reindeer, whose name is Sven, and I almost forgot their little snowman friend, Olaf, and Princess Anna are all chased down the mountain by a giant snow creature. Eventually, they get away, and they go to visit the trolls, little rock people, who are friends with Kristoff, the ice harvester. And unfortunately, the trolls find that they cannot counteract the magic from Queen Elsa when she hurt her sister. But they do figure out there is a way, but it's going to involve true love, as all the best fairy tales, in fact, do. It will involve an act of pure and true love in order to save Princess Anna from her freezing heart. Well, okay. The assumption then of Kristoff, Anna, and all is that she has to go back to town and meet her prince, who she instantly fell in love with, and that if he kisses her, as in all good fairy tales, the prince kisses the princess, she will be healed. So they make their way back to town. Unfortunately, the prince is a scoundrel, and he's just plotting to take over the kingdom. So the true love is not to be, unfortunately, because he doesn't really love her. And since in the meanwhile, they have sent people to other guards, soldiers, to go capture Elsa. They capture Elsa and bring her back to town. So now everyone's back in town. The scoundrel prince has Elsa locked up, and also has Anna locked up in a room. Anna's slowly dying from her frozen heart. Elsa's chained to the wall, and so he thinks that he's going to be able to easily take over the kingdom because Elsa's a witch, and the other princess is going to die of the frozen heart. In any case, at this time, okay, this is a plot twist. We think that she's going to kiss the prince and she'll be healed, but no, that doesn't happen. So then Kristoff figures out that maybe he has to do something. So he races down to the village, and the audience now thinks, oh, Kristoff is the true love, and nobody realized it. So this is what you start to think. So he's racing to the village. In the meantime, Queen Elsa, using her magic freezing abilities, manages to escape. And also, Queen Anna, with the help of Olaf, the magical snowman, also manages to escape. And here is where I will leave you. So we have the evil prince, and Anna has escaped, and Queen Elsa has escaped, and here comes Kristoff, and it all culminates into a climax where a kind of unexpected event happens. And then That's it. That's all I'm going to tell you, because I don't want to spoil it. All right. If somebody tells you the absolute climax of the movie in English, we call that a spoiler. So if somebody's going to tell you the climax, the result of a boxing match, or the climax of the movie, they may say, spoiler alert. Okay, if you don't want to know the surprise ending, then don't listen now. In English, we call that a spoiler alert. Okay, I just gave you the longest example and spoke a lot. Now it's time for somebody to join me and give me your description. By the way, I left you at the climax. Aha. Another useful English word. I left you with a cliffhanger. A cliffhanger is when the story begins to culminate into an exciting moment and then it stops. For example, in the movies, in the Lord of the Rings movies, for example, they made one movie a year. So they always left you at a spot when there was a very dangerous situation and you didn't know if someone was dead or not. Is Gandalf dead? Is what's going to happen next? Oh, they're imprisoned. So they, like, in a series of movies, they leave you at the end with a cliffhanger. You don't know what's going to happen, and then they make you wait. Sometimes in television series, almost always, they frequently leave you with a cliffhanger, some exciting event, and then they stop. Come back this time next week to see what happens to Batman, whoever. Okay, so I left you with a little bit of a cliffhanger in my example because I didn't want to give away the climax of the movie. Not the classic Disney ending, actually. Well, it is and it isn't. A little bit of a surprise ending. Okay. I have talked and talked, and now I'm mighty thirsty. So anyway, the movie Frozen is great for kids. And it's funny for adults. It has its moments. It's entertaining enough so you won't be too bored watching it with your children. And it's all very, of course, all very rated G. There's another descriptor, well, another piece of information we can use to describe movies is the rating system. Not sure about the rating systems in different countries, actually. That is up to each country's government, but rated G means general audience. Means 1 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. There's no violence, no graphic violence, no sex, no bad language, these types of things. So very much rated G kind of movie. In American society, we have G, PG, which means parental guidance, or parental guidance suggested, really. There's no actual law that if you're 14, you can't go to a PG movie. Then there's rated R, which means restricted. Now, allegedly in the United States, if you're not 17, you're not allowed to go to a rated R or restricted movie. Although, as far as I know, this law is completely unenforced. I've never heard about anybody getting into any trouble being under 17 going to a rated R movie. I think it's more for the parents. Don't know if it's actually a punishable law. I'm not sure. because if it is a law, it's certainly not enforced. And then, of course, we have the rated X. And definitely you have to be 18, and these are very sexually explicit material. Come on and join me now to describe a movie, just not a rated X movie, please. Let's keep this a family program. Okay. Again, I encourage viewers, it is your chance to shine. It is your chance, basically, to have a one-on-one class. Come on and join me. I'm obviously all by myself here, getting very thirsty, talking. All right, I've done my best to give you a good example of describing a movie, since no one wants to practice their English with me today. I will try to give you some other information in lecture, boring lecture type. We could have a lot more fun if you would join me. All right, I'll just bore you with more lecture. Let me talk a little bit more about describing and description in English. Just as when I spoke about describing movies, it's a good idea to stay organized and focused and use kind of a format. The who, who's in the movie, where and when, the setting, what happened, and the climax. All right, you basically have a format. When we're describing an activity or an action, we use basically the same thing. We want to give the background, talk about who, where, when, maybe even why you were doing this action, and then what happened. Hopefully with a climax, make it a good story. Now, when we're describing other things, we may use a different kind of format or outline. For example, when doing physical description, it is still important to stay organized. So, for example, if I'm describing a person, in order to stay organized, I would probably start with the top of the head. Okay, he has very short brown hair, bushy eyebrows, brown eyes, kind of a little bit of a large nose. Maybe describe the face, work way down. Okay, describe the body, long legs, and really big feet. So when describing things, it's often a good idea to stay organized by going top to bottom, bottom to top. You could describe a piece of scenery, a place, by describing it left to right or right to left. Or you may, when describing a place, scenery, you may describe it front to back, from the front to the back. And actually, this is very useful for those who may be taking a TOEIC exam. You're going to have to describe a picture, which in general is a picture that has depth. So you want to describe it back to front, or perhaps front to back. It's a lot easier to stay organized. I've definitely noticed when teaching students, if they don't try to keep some direction, they end up describing things all over the place in random order, and it becomes very confusing to the listener. Very simple idea, but nobody ever does it. Even native English speakers sometimes don't use this simple organization format to describe things. Another way that we can describe a place, for example, a house or an apartment or a room, we can also consider the idea of describing clockwise around the room or counterclockwise. It makes no difference which direction you go. The idea is just keep going in that direction. So something like an apartment where you have many rooms, you can in this room and then go right and then go right and then go right. Do the same thing when you're describing a room. First of all, there's the door, and then there's one wall where there's a bureau, and then there's a big sliding glass window on the wall opposite from the door. And moving around the room, then there's another set of louvered windows with an air conditioner and a small table. Then there's a wardrobe in the corner, moving back to the wall with the door. That's where I have my computer and my desk and you. Okay, so moving around the room. This is another way to organize description. If you can organize your description, it's going to be so much clearer, by the way. Okay. And actually, I was talking about physical description. Just as when we're describing an activity, we're going to give background and then talk about the plot, what happened in the movie, and the climax. If I'm describing a person and I want to give a thorough description, of course I might use physical description, top to bottom, or bottom to top, makes no difference. And after that, that's more or less my background information, and then I would talk about maybe the personality, what the person is like. So, same thing, describing a place. You may describe it physically, again, kind of giving background, and then describe, with a place you might describe afterwards the more abstract ideas, the atmosphere. When we're describing a place, a restaurant, for example, we would describe the atmosphere of that place. It has violin music, and there's a single candle and a single red rose on each table. It has a very romantic atmosphere, very intimate atmosphere. It's quite dark, so you can only really see the person you're with. So the restaurant has a romantic atmosphere. So it's very common when describing things to move from concrete to abstract. That's the point here. Again, very useful for any IELTS or students, CAE, and any kind of standardized English exam. You're probably going to have to do description, and really the best way to help yourself is to stay organized, because it's going to be much clearer. And most of these English exams, part of the scoring, IELTS, TOEFL, TOEIC, everyone I can think of, part of the scoring at least, maybe a different percentage, 20%, 25, 50%, is based on organization of how you're speaking. So, all right, today's class, how to organize description. We're supposed to, I had hoped to actually have some students today who could help me, actually help me by recommending movies and doing some description and practicing their English, and I could give you feedback and maybe teach you how to do a better job. But most unfortunately, although I have viewers, don't have anybody that is brave enough to actually try speaking English. What's wrong with you? Are you chicken? Okay. Uh, I'm tired. I can't. I have to work. I'm tired. It's very difficult to just sit here and talk for an hour. You're killing me. You people are killing me. Okay. Anyway, I hope you learned a little bit about describing things and how to stay organized when you're describing things. Uh, Please, next time, join me. And then, because if you join me and we can actually talk here on Verbling, I can really help you to improve your English. And I can help you, as in this class, surely I could have helped you improve your ability to give description in English. Or other things. Okay, I can help you so much more, actually. I can actually talk to you and communicate and interact with you. But so join English. It's join Verbling and learn English. Participate. You have to interact. You can't just watch English and learn English. Okay. So I urge you, all you viewers out there, it's very, very, very reasonable price to join unlimited classes. Unlimited. That means as many as you want for a month. It's extremely reasonable. And you will learn so much more if you can actually talk to the different teachers here at Verbling. Thank you for your time and attention. And I'll see you next time here on Verbling. Bye-bye.